So NF is an artist who I have a strange relationship with in the modern day. I would say mostly due to factors outside of the artist and the music itself. Mostly due to the internet being how the internet is now, social media having correct opinions, and generally just being very toxic and negative towards certain types of music and certain types of artists, and as a result, certain types of audiences. I don't want to spend too much of this review talking about it because that's not really what the point of this video is, but I do feel like I have pulled back slightly in my listening to NF's music as of recent years. As much as I do try and make a conscious effort not to let the opinions of others in terms of like music taste and like what is cringy to listen to or what is try-hard music or co-worker music, is the thing that's become a new phrase. I'm human. Depending on the day, that can affect me in different ways. As much as I do feel like I do try and listen to stuff regardless of what the popular opinion is on my algorithms on Twitter and YouTube Shorts and stuff like that, it sometimes does still affect me. But that said, NF is an artist who I really appreciate and really like the stuff of. I found him around 2019, 2020. An old friend of mine made an animatic, I think is the correct word, to When I Grow Up. And then I didn't really know who NF was. That didn't really lead me to listening to more stuff of him. But once the search was out and I found the search, I suddenly realized, oh, it's that artist. And The Search is an album which I really appreciate. Still now, I think it's one of my favorite albums, partly due to when I found it and the relationship I had to music at the time, that every album I listened to felt special because I didn't listen to a lot of music. But I still think it's a very solid project. But that said, that brings us to 2025 with Fear, the new EP by NF that he released, I don't want to say when, as not date the video. It's a 6-song EP and is the first project and piece of music, really, that NF has released since 2023, when he released his last full-length album, Hope. Hope was an album which I enjoyed, but wasn't what I expected it to be going in, due to the slightly brighter album cover and the title and the singles. I kind of expected it to be a bit more of a cheery sounding record from NF. Listening to it on repeat, it is definitely, subject matter wise, a bit more positive compared to what a lot of his prior projects were. But that said, NF gained a lot of criticism due to the samey sound a lot of people say he has. He kind of has a specific sonic theme and just general production style and size and general just sound to a lot of music he makes. And that's not a problem, really. He even kind of confronts this in the album Hope with the song Motto, where he kind of makes the point of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I do get the criticism of people of like an artist making the same kind of project over and over. I don't believe that is the case for NF personally, but I do definitely think that a lot of albums, if you kind of shuffle random songs, you won't be able to tell much of a difference in sound as compared to some artists. And I bring all that up because I believe that Fear is one of the first times, ignoring like the self-titled EP and stuff before he really grew much of an audience, where I can feel, at least personally, a difference in sound, at least subtly, right? The songs on Fear, for the most part, feel more stripped back. I don't want to say acoustic, but it is definitely the grandiosity of, if that is even a word I can use, if that is even a word, to be honest with you, of a lot of the production and a lot of the instrumentals isn't there, other than like maybe aspects of the title track opening the EP, which I do think is an interesting decision, and I do respect the project for that. The project as a whole is about 6 songs, about 21 minutes, I believe, which I think is a pretty healthy length for an EP. I feel like a lot of EPs now end up being about 4 songs in about 10 minutes, or like 9 and 30, at which point it's essentially an album. Around the release of Hope, there was a lot of theorizing that there would be a deluxe to the album. I don't quite remember what people thought it was going to be called or why people thought that was going to happen. I don't know if this is what that became, or if this was a completely new studio sessions and was never really considered, or if there was ever a deluxe even planned for Hope. But regardless, this is an interesting jump off point from that project. The title of the EP being Fear is very consistent throughout the entire project, where a lot of the songs are NF confronting some kind of fear, which, considering the last project being Hope, I do really kind of respect this being where he ends up going. When you make a project that kind of has this, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, everything's okay now, everything's better, that works in movies and that works in concept, but as a human, it's easy to forget that, like, that life is up and down. That doesn't mean it's not okay for there to be a down again in the future, and that means you won't necessarily go back up again, because you will. And a lot of NF's music touching on his personal issues and his emotions and stuff, I appreciate how probably difficult it was to confront the fact that this was what the new project was going to be, which is kind of what Fear as a song seems to talk about. It's a really good opener to the project, I think, and probably one of the highlights on the EP. Well, it doesn't necessarily feel as grand as a lot of the other openers to his other project. I don't feel like that is the point. As I said, a lot of the project going forward is a lot more stripped back, but I feel like it does fit alongside those other openers and fits the theme of the rest of the EP. As said, the lyrics kind of do give this idea of Nate not knowing what to do next with his music, and if people want more from his music, and kind of like what people will say about what the next music he makes is, considering the last album, while also not knowing if it's necessarily good for him, and being always frustrated that he's fallen back into this emotional state when working on his project, with lyrics like Same Song and Dance, talking about telling himself that this wouldn't happen again, but it happening again once he starts to write, almost kind of implying that maybe writing music isn't good for him, and maybe it's not the escape he thought it was, which I think is really amplified by the ending of the song, with the almost like haunting repeat of the phrase, "Is this what you wanted?" Almost like talking to the audience of like, I'm gonna give you what you want, right? This is the show you want, this is me feeling shit, this is me going through all this stuff, you want more music, here you fucking go. I think that's a very interesting way to start the project, and it really does set the scene for the rest of it. And like I said, with the title being Fear, the project does confront musically a lot of the fears that NF has at this state of his life. The following track, Home, talks about him calling the phone of someone who he loves, who's recently passed away, and leaving messages and come to their house, and not really confronting the fact that they are gone, and not really like being ready to deal with that grief, with the general concept being like, they will pick up the phone later, they will leave a message later, you know, I'll come back and they will be there. I think it is noteworthy, and I think this will come up in a lot of these videos, that I'm not one really for quiet songs. I can appreciate them, I do enjoy them, I'll even choose to listen to them from time to time, but in terms of what I like listening to and what I will choose to listen to, I like high energy stuff. So if a song like this doesn't end up being my favourite on projects, it usually doesn't resemble necessarily how good I think the song is, or how good the song is. And that's to say that I don't see myself going back to this song a lot, but I feel like if I want a song about grief, or I want a sad song to listen to on the rare occasions that I do that, the very rare occasions that I do that, I do think this is a very well written song. The project has two features, which is very unusual for NF as an artist, in terms of both him having an artist on his song and being on a song with another artist in general. You could probably count the amount of rap features he's had on both your hands. Obviously James Arthur isn't a rap feature, but usually if he does have a feature, it's a female singer, so him having anything outside of just that is very unusual. He started to expand to this a bit more over the last few years. Like he had Tech Nine and Hobson feature on the Clouds mixtape a few years ago, he had Corday on the Hope record, and now he's got MGK and James Arthur on this record. Two interesting picks. I do feel like James Arthur's vocals maybe don't hit the way that works for me. I think when he's singing on his own, I don't love them. I don't think, maybe that's just how it works with the instrumental they've chosen, or the production they've chosen. But as soon as they're layered with Nate's vocals, I think it works a lot better for me. It's just the wavery, kind of weirdly mixed sound I don't think works for me amazingly. James Arthur's a very interesting artist, because it's not someone you really think about often, but then you look at the songs he's made and you realise, oh my god, he's huge. He's made some of the biggest pop songs of the last decade, and obviously he won X Factor. That's how I know him, from winning X Factor. MGK makes sense. When it was revealed that they were working on a song together, although I never saw them working on a song together, I was intrigued. James Arthur wasn't something I really ever even conceived as an idea, or even was really looking forward to, realistically. But that said, MGK features on the third track of the track list, being Who I Was. The song does come dangerously close to feeling like an MGK song that featured NF. MGK's verse is decent. It does come across slightly insincere in terms of the emotions, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem with this verse specifically. It more so comes across as like a byproduct of a lot of the other emotional music MGK makes, sometimes feeling a bit generic. Not all the time. He definitely has a lot of songs, for example, on Hotel Diablo, where it comes across as really genuine, and it comes across as this is how he feels and how only he can feel. But other times he can make songs that are a bit more like, here's just general reasons to be sad, here's general thoughts of sad things. And it, as much as I'm not saying that is insincere, and I'm sure it isn't, it doesn't work for me and a lot of other people, as well as someone like, for example, NF's songwriting works. And so I do think the instrumental change slightly between MGK's verse and NF's does work to separate them and does help the song flow better. That said, NF's verse is a bit short, and I kind of wish that he took up more of the song, but it's still good. Give Me a Reason is next, which is probably my favourite track on the project, to be honest with you. Potentially because it's the most rap song out of the entire project. And I understand, like I said, that's not what this project is going for, and I do like that it is different. But this one just feels a bit more homey to me. And it can come across as just a general braggadocious track, but I also like how it seems to be given the idea of him needing a reason to do this anymore, and him looking for a drive and something to motivate him. Talking about how he needs more criticism and how he's bored of being loved, which, I mean, if you look at social media, bro, it might help you. But I really like it. I like the mentions of like the criticisms of like just to want to be shady, kind of, you know, throwing back to like the really surface level criticism that artists like NF get. And I do like the sentiment of, I've been doing this for a long time, I'm scared of getting complacent, and I need a reason to do this any longer. Potentially, again, feeding to the idea of I'm not enjoying this anymore, which then definitely is delved into even deeper on the final track, Washed Up, where he talks about this idea of have I already hit my peak? Am I on the way down? Is there much left for me in terms of this career? And I do think that kind of came across in the rollout of this project, making tweets saying that he was making music, he had to figure out a way of releasing it. This is why this and Give Me a Reason and Fear, to be honest, really stand out to me on this project. Is like my favorites, because as silly as it sounds, one of the big draws that really brought me to enjoying rap music in general was this like meta storytelling that like other genres don't really lend themselves to or really even like dive into that much. And what I mean by that is like artists in the rap genre often will talk about previous songs or previous projects or themselves making the music and writing the music in a way that genres like pop, for example, don't touch on. They try and be a bit more general and try and, you know, hope that the audience listening will identify themselves with it and try and get as many people as possible to identify with. And I don't think that's a problem. I think that's, you know, that works for the genre that it is. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But something I really enjoy about rap music is that like songs like this, talking about really personal decisions and thoughts and like opinions on stuff, about anything really, from really serious subjects to even just like subjects like this, which are very niche and very specific to one person or to creatives, for example. That's what I love hearing about. These are songs that I believe only the artist could make. Only NF could make this song in the way that he made it, about his feelings about his career. And I really enjoy that. And I think as someone, as silly as it sounds, who has, you know, been making content for a long time and had little like specks of success, if you can even call it that, and then fell back down, or even just someone, you know, even if like when I feel like I haven't had any success, there's like progress to it and sometimes it just falls back off. I really like songs like this because I can like find myself in them, where you kind of have that feeling of like, is this it? Is there a point of still going? Have I already peaked? Was the peak low? Did I not take advantage of it when it was there? I really like that, and I think that like it's told really well in this song, as is like a lot of this project. But as a whole, I think this project is great. I really enjoy it. I feel like I am going to be going back to it quite a lot, at least having songs from it I go back to. As I said, my favorites are Give Me a Reason. I really like the sentiment and the writing of Washed Up and Home, and even Fear. But due to them being quieter and more stripped back songs, I don't see myself returning to them super often. That doesn't mean I don't like them. I do really like them. It's just, like I said, with how I listen to music and the stuff I usually kind of seek out and the energy of songs I usually want to listen to on a day-to-day. Give Me a Reason hits that energy and that point which I really enjoy, and like the music of his I like to play on repeat. But as a whole project, I really enjoyed this. I think it came together quite well. I think the features definitely felt a bit out of place. Not the features themselves, it's more the songs felt a bit more aimless. Not entirely, but they didn't feel as focused as the solo cuts from this EP. But I do feel like that probably just comes with having an external artist come in, and with an artist like NF doesn't really, work with other artists very often on songs. I can see how that happened. But yeah, overall, would I recommend to listen to this project? If you're into NF's music and you consider yourself a fan, I think this is definitely a must listen. I think it's a very good part of his discography, and I think it deserves to be there and it deserves to be where it is. If you're going in with no feelings whatsoever, I feel like you would enjoy this. If you already don't like NF's music and you already have a certain preconception of his sound and you think it's cringe or whatever, I don't think this is going to sell him to you. I definitely do think that this would do a better job than Hope would, for example, in terms of selling that he can do different sounds and selling what kind of writing he can do. But I do feel like if you already feel like you're not going to like it and you already have a preconceived notion of what this type of music is and the type of people who listen to it, etc., this won't break that. This isn't different enough, or this isn't groundbreaking enough to suddenly make someone love them. This isn't like a Tyler the Creator situation where all of a sudden it's super different and it's like really evolved. This is generally just a decent evolution and a decent next step of his music. But for someone who loves his music, which tends to be a lot of his fan base, I love it. I think it's great. I'm really glad he released it. I know he often has a lot of thoughts about what is worth releasing and all that kind of stuff if you're paying attention to his Twitter, and just generally the writing in a lot of these songs, such as Washed Up, where it seems like he doesn't even know if there's going to be an audience there to listen to this project. I'm glad that he took that leap and he took that risk to release it, because I really enjoy it. I think it being an EP makes it feel a lot more focused. Would I have preferred an album? Yes, but that's just me. Like, I understand the quantity of a quality argument, and I definitely agree with that, but for me, I like, just in my day-to-day life, to have more decent songs to listen to than less great songs. Is that a correct way of thinking? Fuck no. That's just me, I like music. I like listening to music a lot. If a song's really great, I listen to it 30 times. I'm going to get sick of it, as opposed to a song that's good. There's 5 of them. I can listen to more. More music time for me. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about this. This is, just for the record, the first one of these I'm recording, so if it felt a bit all over the place, a bit chopped up, a bit aimless or unsure of what I'm doing, that's because it was. But I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring out if I enjoy doing this. I'm figuring out if I'm going to keep going with this, and I hope I enjoy it. I have a lot of thoughts about how I could do this in a way that I enjoy, but just making sure that I keep that up. Don't overthink it. Don't put too much pressure on myself to make it a certain way, because that's not what the point of the channel is. It's not meant to be a very polished, high production value place. It's meant to just be me discussing stuff I like and talking about why I like it and my thoughts, and hopefully get some other people to join in with it. All the high production stuff and the stuff that I would like to show to like employers, that's on the main channel. Will Glitch, subscribe. But yeah, definitely a much longer recording than I thought it was going to be. Like I said, if you're curious to go listen to this, it's only 20 minutes. I think definitely go and listen to it. Hopefully you appreciate it like I do. Hopefully maybe my conversations about it will make you appreciate it a bit more. If it doesn't, then fuck me, I guess. But yeah, go check out the project, go support the artist, obviously all that kind of stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more ramblings from a person who doesn't know how to make music himself. And see you, I don't fucking know, whenever the next one comes out. Bye-bye.